Maybe. I'm gonna. You're already in a call. Okay. Hey, it's going.
Oh yeah, I see the live now.
Yeah. Hey,
Great start to
Stephanie.
Hey Pete.
Let's talk about Hedwig and the Angry Inch, the movie, not the Broadway show, right?
No, but right, it was based on. So I don't know if you looked it up or anything. The movie came out when I was like 19 or 20. So this was like 2000, something like that. But originally it
2001. It was 2001.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. But originally it was an off-Broadway show.
Uh-huh.
Like they had it in this little theater, and it was just basically a series of monologues in between the songs. And then it evolved into the movie, and then it evolved into the Broadway show. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Did you see the play before it was a movie?
No.
Because you're like y- I consider you to be more of an authority on musicals and and stuff like this because you do what are your drama nerd credentials?
I've been doing, I mean, it's community theater. So hold on.
Okay.
It's not exactly like a big credential there, but I've been doing community
But
theater for like 15 years.
that's
Um,
still, I mean, that's more than me.
yeah.
So relatively speaking, you have the credentials and I do not.
Right. It's funny though,
Yeah.
because I would say on the whole, I don't really like musicals,
Oh, okay.
which
Okay.
is weird. Or like I'm very picky about the musicals that I do like. So
Uh-huh.
like there like maybe I can count on one hand the number of musicals that I do like. There's tons of others that I haven't seen or I haven't heard the soundtrack of, so I guess I can't really judge, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're because you do Ren Fair type stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I just consider you to be a more publicly dramatic person than than me. Let's put it that way. Like because
Yeah.
you did like bar didn't you lead like bar trivia for a while,
Yeah.
right? Am I making that up?
Yeah, I did that. No, I did that for like a year maybe.
Oh,
Or
okay.
it might have been 2 years. Yeah, it wasn't very long. Um,
Is it okay for me
but
to
still every
mention?
week.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's putting on a show. Um,
Yeah.
and can I mention the LARPing in here, or is that not okay to mention?
Yeah, no, I don't care. Some
Okay.
people get really weird about it and they don't want to talk about it. And it's this big secret thing because if people knew that they did this, oh my God, what would they think of them? And it's like, I don't care.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
people get really like, people like to look down on LARPing as like, oh, it's like the lowest echelon of nerddom. But like,
Oh, really? I did not mean to insinuate that. I did
well,
not mean
no,
that.
no, you didn't. But like other
Okay.
people have. It's like, oh, well, they would play tabletop, they would play D&D, but they would never LARP. And it's like we are doing the same thing. Only we play rock paper scissors instead of rolling dice. Like it's not like don't get on a high horse here, you
Yeah.
know.
And
And
and go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I mean, we like might costume, but really, at least my friends, we only costume for like big events because we're part of this big international organization. But like when it's just
Okay.
us, we don't care. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. No, no. It's I mean, and for if anybody is listening to this, period. That's my full sentence. If anyone,
Just
no,
if
if
anybody.
for like LARPing is live action role playing, right? That's what
Oh
that
yeah,
stands
that's
for.
helpful if you don't know what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
So that and the takeaway from that, the reason I mentioned it is just to say, like you do acting type things in your life. So
Yes.
I consider you to be more of an expert on a musical, a movie that it's based on a play, than me or than a large majority of my friends that I've talked to.
Okay, and so you're
Yeah.
building up to like I broke your trust in
No,
picking
not at
this.
all. Not at
Okay.
all. You're referencing things that happened off episode, but I just mentioned that there were parts that I didn't enjoy, but we'll get into it.
Okay.
And and I people that if anybody listens to this podcast and has listened to anything before, like this is full of spoilers. Like the way to use it is to watch the movie and then come listen to this.
Yes.
So I don't want to waste a whole lot of time like trying to recreate the plot of the movie. Um,
Right. And
we
to for the
yeah
setup too, like you asked me like to give you one of my favorite movies.
yeah
So
yeah
yeah, so for this for
yeah
me
for
is one
sure.
of my favorite movies. And like there were others I could have picked, but you know, this was one
No,
that obviously you hadn't watched and
uh-huh uh-huh
so yeah, that was part of the
yeah
reason why we chose this movie in particular, not, you know.
right yeah, like it's not it's timely only in the sense that I asked you what your favorite movie was, and I said,
Well,
"Hey, let's talk about that."
and it's timely in that, yes, the musical has become a big thing, especially like with Neil Patrick Harris being in it. And I
Hmm.
think Darren Criss and Taye Diggs, I think, was in it too.
I don't know those
So,
people, but
yeah, they,
okay,
well, so it had a big run of fairly famous like actors. Uh,
okay,
and I know there's a drag queen, Mimi M. First, who has been doing a production of it too. So
okay,
it's lasted for what is it, 20 years now, but it's had a resurgence lately. So
okay, yeah, and so just the the skeleton of the plot is that what was his name at the beginning? Hansel is this kid who grows
yes,
up in East Germany. Um, I can't remember if they reference that he's gay before he meets the officer that is looking at him over the wall. But
they
anyway,
they do. It's
they
part
do.
of one of
Okay.
the little animations, and so I guess if you're not really
Oh,
paying
right.
attention to it, then yeah.
I was paying.
Well,
That was a
no,
dig.
no, that wasn't a dig because it's. I mean, so the phrase that he uses in the little animation is talking about all the men who have touched me in my life. Who can I
Oh,
say who has
right.
touched me the most? And then that talks
Right.
about that's when you get into the point about the father. Anyway,
Right.
but bare bone skeleton, yes, he lives in
Yeah.
East Germany. He's trying. Like he meets this guy, he wants to get out, but the only way he can get out is if he becomes a woman.
Yeah. And so the officer sort of halfway forces him, halfway kind of just convinces him, and he has the sex change reluctantly. The sex change is botched,
Yes,
and thus the title of the movie, The Angry Inch.
yes,
So um, Hansel is now Hedwig, and she moves with the guy to America, and um, he promptly finds another androgynous boy
right.
to be with, and then she
Right, the day the
meets
wall falls down too, like she's
the
like
day the wall
watch.
falls down. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
yeah, so it's
yeah.
like, great, I did all this for nothing now.
Right, right. It's like it. I think that sensibility is a lot in the movie. The like tragically funny. It's so tragic, but it's also funny at the same time. You know.
Right, yeah.
Um, and somewhere along the way, she meets Tommy Gnosis. I know that wasn't his name. Like she gave
His
him that
name was
name.
Tommy Speck
Oh, okay. Yeah,
originally,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So she meets Tommy Speck, and they start writing songs together and have a romantic relationship. He can't handle her. Um, she she never says in the movie that she's like she never labels herself in the movie,
Right.
right? Like she never says she's transgender. She never says she's a woman or so. Anyway, she Tommy Speck, Tommy Gnosis can't handle whatever she has going on, the botched sex change operation in front.
Right.
So it's sort of like a weird back and forth. Anyway, he starts using the songs that they wrote together and is getting acclaim. And meanwhile, she's playing with her band, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, in a series of bilge water restaurants.
Right, which is how the whole story is told, because basically
Yeah.
they're following Tommy Gnosis on his tour because he stole all the songs, and I guess as a way to try to prove that she wrote them, or try to, whatever. Yeah, so they follow along and play at the nearby restaurant.
Yeah, the bilge water chain of restaurants.
Right.
Yeah. That's a funny name. And so yeah, then it's a hard movie to recap even just briefly because the way it's told in like you said, we're getting the narrative from her in those restaurants as she's following Tommy, and she's doing flashbacks, which are a combination of songs
Yes.
and just straight up like retellings of what happened to her past.
Well, and the ending gets weird. The ending does get weird because there is this confrontation between Tommy and Hedwig, and they get caught together. So like, oh look, she's been telling the truth the whole time.
Mm-hmm,
But then
mm-hmm.
it also gets into a confrontation of like, I guess, like facing herself and facing how she's been acting towards people, and and then the ending is weird. I will admit that it's like really metaphorical and really,
Oh, sure, sure.
yeah.
I won't. I think because you know that I didn't like parts of this, I'm not gonna like ask you to defend why you like this movie at all. Like,
No, I don't feel like I have to. Like, I like the
okay,
movie,
okay,
and if you don't
yeah,
like it,
yeah,
that's fine. Like,
yeah, yeah.
that's fine.
Cool.
So,
Yes.
yeah,
Why? So, what? You said this is your one of your favorites or your favorite movie.
yeah.
What makes this your favorite movie?
Um, the song. I mean, the songs. It is a musical, so I
Yeah,
love the songs. I love the soundtrack. I listen to the soundtrack all the time. Still, 20 years
yeah,
later. And
yeah.
I
The
think
songs are great. Songs are really good. Yeah.
knowing that I knew that you didn't like it, part of me was like thinking like, well, why do I like this movie? And part of it might have to be the where I was in my life when the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like 20 or 21 or something. I was getting to the end of like college, and that's the point where you're like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And there's a lot of like, I guess, like navel gazing and self introspection and like trying to find yourself, which I think is like what the
Uh-huh.
movie is about, is basically like her trying to really like reconcile like who she is and what her life is about. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. I can totally see that. Yeah,
So I
like
think that's the connection, is that, like, oh yeah, that's you, like when you're going through the same thing, you kind of have that like connection with the movie.
right. Yeah, like there are movies that hit me in the same way. Like I think if you're a certain kind of person and you just leave high school and are like in college and trying to be like you seek out things that will be complex and you can read into them. And like for me, I really got into on the polar opposite side of this. Like I was like super into Fight Club because it was like edgy and
Oh yeah,
weird and like
yeah.
Chuck Palahniuk and stuff. Um,
Or for me, the other one was Reality Bites.
I
Uh,
don't think I've ever seen that. I gotta watch that.
that one, I'm just because they are, it's these four friends. They're all like post graduation, and they're just lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what
Mm-hmm.
I was going through then at the time too, when I saw it, because I hadn't really seen it when it came out. Um, but yeah, I watched it, and then I was like, oh my god, that's me on the television screen. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can totally see that. Um, and I think this movie. I think we maybe just to do the big reveal. Maybe I can tell you the aspects of this movie that it's not that I. Well, I guess I did. Yeah. Let's talk about the aspects of the movie that I just did not like. I
Sure, let's just
I
go
agree
for it.
with you. I
Rip off the
agree with
band-aid.
yeah, because I'll just keep saying like Why did I like it? What I did like were the songs. Those were great. It helps that Bob Mould played the guitar on some of those songs. At least so I read. And Bob Mould's amazing. I'm a
Oh,
big
okay.
Bob
I
Mould
didn't know
fan.
that.
So
I knew the band in the movie is the guy who wrote all the songs, Stephen Trask. That was his band.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And apparently Bob Mould. He's either on the recording. I was trying to find where I read it. He's either on the recording or he has played live in some of the shows. But
Okay.
I think he's on the recording, if I remember reading it correctly. I was
And
trying to go back through and find it, and I couldn't find it
I'll
where I
say
read
for the
that.
music, I prefer the music from the movie better than any Broadway recordings that I've heard. Like
Oh, okay.
I love Neil Patrick Harris. He's funny and he's fantastic and he's a talented like singer, but it's too Broadway for me. Like it's too clean, it's too
Mm-hmm.
enunciated. I don't know. It just got
Mm-hmm.
too cleaned up. And I'm like, no, I want the like dirtier rock side of it. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're it's like legitimately good glam or like punk, like some weird mixture of glam and punk songs in there with even some like prog rock stuff with the Plato or Aristotle man woman song, whatever that was called. What's
uh
what is that one?
I
Where it's like two halves of the same thing.
oh god, it's like the opening song.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, we did great homework.
Yeah, well, I bet I have it here, like on, if I just pull up my albums. In the meantime, we can talk about something else while I.
Well, so the gosh, I was struggling with how to think about this. So the guy in the
Okay, it's
movie,
Tear Me Down, just so everybody knows. It's the very
tear
first
me down.
song. Tear Me Down, yeah.
Okay, is that it?
Right, it's right.
Okay.
Talking about the bridge between two worlds, yeah, from East Berlin
Yes.
to Junction City, like yeah. Yeah, that's it.
No, the other
No?
one.
I'm gonna
No.
think of another one.
Yeah, the one that's about I just had it up. Where are the songs? Turn me down, no. Yeah, maybe it was. Anyway, there's a song in there that's about that's references like some Platonic or Aristotle myth thing where people are searching for their other half, and that's the song that I was thinking of.
It's
Yeah.
Origin of Love. It's the
Yes,
people with the
Origin of
four
Love.
arms and four legs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, Origin of Love. Origin of
Yeah.
Love. That was the one that I thought was kind of prog rocky. Okay, so this was like a a big ball of wax for me to try and figure out. So John Cameron Mitchell, right, is the guy who basically with Stephen Trask, but it's primarily John Cameron Mitchell who wrote and I think directed this too, right?
Yes, I think so.
So I think just watching the movie and like taking it as it is, it's like, oh, this is cool. It brings up like some themes about like the fluidity of gender, which I think is great,
Hmm.
and like you questions of gender and sexuality and stuff, and every and how fluid it is, and I think all of that stuff is cool and great. When I started to think about it a little bit deeper, though,
Hmm.
um, is there, let me just pose it as a question. Is it a problem for somebody who is, I think John Cameron Mitchell is gay. So,
He is. Yeah.
yeah. So, is it a problem for a gay man to represent it? I know she didn't identify as transgender in the movie, but like, in my mind, I would think it's close enough. Like, is it okay for somebody to portray a transgendered person and sort of use the like? I felt like he was using the almost using it as like body horror to a certain degree, as like shock value
Oh,
to like the way
yeah.
they described her like botched surgery. It just seems like I don't know. Like it caused me to be like, is it okay for this guy to do that when I don't know what I don't even know if I have a fully formed idea. It just
Okay.
seems like it seems like it could be problematic.
It could be
And I
problematic. Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, like,
yeah.
in conversations where you hear about, like, not in the same context, but you hear about, like, well, straight actors, cisgender
Yes.
people should not play trans people. Like,
Yes.
I don't ever
Yes.
hear criticisms of this movie. And I don't know if it's because, like, Hansel does not want to be transgender. That is not part of their identity. That is not anything to begin with. And it's like it's just something done to get him out of, communist, like, whatever,
Sure.
like, yeah, getting him out of East Germany. So it was just like a means to an end, basically.
Yes, and I think like with I get it within the way that the story is written. Like I totally understand that. Like
Right.
if we're just judging the box as far as how it was created, but the I think the fact that it's used as a device, I'm not sure exactly what it like if this movie came out today because the politics back 2001 are way different than the politics today, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know what 2019 people would how something that just came out in the box office and it's like sort of using this kind of like back and forth about like it's going for shock value like I said, but also um the portrayal of Hedwig, like when Hansel is Hedwig, like she's not. Uh, there's many parts where she's not a sympathetic character at all,
Right.
right? Like she. I'm thinking of when she's like smacking the guy in the face, and for good reason. Like the Tommy Gnosis character was making her feel bad about her body and herself and stuff, and
Right,
he's
but
getting hit
like
in the face.
other times when it's just like when she rips up Yitzhak's passport
Yes.
for no
Oh
reason.
God, that
Yeah,
was
well, not for
I
no
was
reason, but for
so
like
uncomfortable.
it's not a good reason to rip up. So like you should never do that to begin
No.
with. But yeah,
Oh my God. Yeah,
yeah.
that was like that was tough to watch. I mean, it's good acting, and the fact that it was so that I felt so uncomfortable watching it, like that speaks like a lot to the writing and like the acting, like that. The fact that it was that affecting is great, but I'm just taking a step back and saying like thematically, like I don't know, like are they trying to say like this is how transgendered people are or something? I
Well,
it's
no, so on that point, I would argue, like, so here's the thing, like,
yeah,
yay, we want more representation of different genders, of different things like that in the media. We want more representation of transgender people, but they can't all be good representations.
I
So
agree.
like,
I agree. Yeah.
there are people who would watch it and go like, oh, are all transgender people that way? Or are people gonna watch it and go, yeah, that person's transgender and they're a fucking asshole, but the two don't have to do anything to do with each other?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah.
Because I mean, there are cisgender people who are just fucking assholes, and it's not because of their gender or anything. It's just how they
Right,
are.
right, right. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, you wouldn't watch I wouldn't watch a movie and say, "Oh, well, that straight guy are they trying to say they're trying to make
Right,
some commentary about him being straight." Yeah, that's a
right.
very very good point. That's a very good point. Um okay, yeah,
But
yeah.
I can see your point about the like, is it being used as body horror? Again, with the resurgence of the musical, I mean, that's just within the last like year or two, and it hasn't been a
Sure.
big issue. So I don't know if it's because in
Yeah.
the context of the story, people are okay with it,
Uh-huh.
or
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
But
yeah,
I
I
could be
should say,
wrong. But you would think that if it were like a major thing, that they would like shut the musical down, or they would do something, like. So
yeah, if
there
there
may
was
be
an
people who,
outcry.
right? There
So
may be people who are upset, but it hasn't gotten like major attention for it.
right, right. Okay. I mean, that was the big thing where I was like, oh gosh, I'm having trouble enjoying this movie. And it was that big question for me. So
Yeah.
setting that part aside, just the fact that it just makes me go like like it makes me go, I'm not sure if I can sign off on this. So if I put that to one side, like I think it's the way it's shot is really cool. Like it was shot for $6 million, like at a
Wow.
time when a comparable musical was maybe not comparable, but the other another musical from that time was like Moulin Rouge, which was like $50 million.
Oh, which is Baz
So
Luhrmann, and of course, like over the top. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
but
still, like,
still,
yeah, it's
yeah,
hard to find movies that are that cheap, which is still scary that it's cheap. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I looked up the box office stuff just because I'm interested in how much these movies make.
Hmm.
And uh, uh, if I'm, it looks like in the entire year of 2001, when it was out in the theater, so
Hmm.
the movie cost 3 million or 6 million. It only made 3 million in the box office.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I
it
mean,
became a big like cult following after the fact.
oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah, yeah. And then I guess I was looking up what John Cameron Mitchell did next, and I guess he did Short Bus next. Did you ever watch that or
I no, I never
see
watched
it?
it. The only thing that I know that I've seen him in is he was in Girls on HBO. He
Oh,
was
okay.
Hannah's editor or
Oh,
something like that. Yeah, so he
oh,
made
okay.
some cameo appearances on that show, but that's the only other thing I'd seen him in, really.
The the weird thing, I'm gonna Google it really quick. The weird to make sure I'm not getting it wrong. The weird thing about Short Bus that I think I remember is that he wanted there to be actual sex in the movie.
Okay.
Like he wanted to film people actually having sex because it was supposed to be all about like it was supposed to be all about like what it's actually like and what sex actually does to a relationship. So not the way it's portrayed in movies and not the way it's portrayed on the other side in like porn and stuff, but like
Right.
what it actually does.
Huh.
But yeah, I think they were supposed to do that. Uh maybe I heard that wrong because this little quote I see says in the old days when you couldn't show sex in film, directors like Hitchcock had metaphors for sex. When you can show more realistic sex, sex itself can be a metaphor for parts of other characters' lives. Anyway, so um and yeah, then he went on to direct some episodes of Glow, I think more recently, from what I heard.
Oh, I
So
liked that, so I didn't. I'll have to go back and pay attention.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um okay. So
So
let's see.
there was actually something in my rewatching that I found problematic.
Oh,
That
okay.
I don't, yeah. So we referenced it very slightly, and it's like it's the like barest like minute in the movie, and it's in the intro when he's talking about his childhood, and he says, the whole like, uh, lots of men have touched me in my life. Who can I say touched me the most? And then he gets to his father, and
Oh, right. Yeah,
in the
yeah.
way in the way it's portrayed and in the scene that follows, like it's insinuated that his dad like molested him.
Yes, that's what I gleaned from that little bit too.
So my problem with this is, and again, this could be we could construe this a different way, but with like Milo Yiannopoulos and the whole thing about like pedophilia being a regular thing in the gay community, and I don't know if you've ever heard someone say this,
Huh.
but I have heard people say this, small town in the South, that like
Uh-huh.
if someone's gay, oh, they must have been touched when they were a child, like they must have been
Oh.
molested, they must have been. So for that to be part of it is kind of made me go, oh, well, that sucks that that has to be part of the storyline. But I'm sure, like, again, like anybody, you could say that there are cis people, there are straight people, there are, any on the range of sexuality and gender and blah 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 who were molested as a child, but that's not why
Mm-hmm.
they chose the way they are.
Yes. Yes. I agree with
So,
you. Yeah.
you're like, yes, it just so happens that yes, he was molested, and yes, he happens to be gay. So
Mm-hmm.
one does not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily cause the other, but it just in light of certain things like that, it did make me kind of go like, oh, well, that's a shame.
Yeah. I like yeah, yeah. What it's I still come back to I can't tell if this movie I can't tell if I removed like the shock value stuff from this movie,
Mm-hmm.
if people would still talk about it quite as much as they do. Like, do you think that this movie survives on those little things? It's like, oh, look, they're dropping this hint about child molestation, and then there's like this other like thing, the way they talk about the botch, you know, sex job and this and that. Like,
I
do
think
people watch this movie just for shock value?
I don't no, I don't think so. Because
Okay.
I think like so for the test for this, maybe let's say, like, what if you took out all those things? What if you took out the father molestation? Because again, it was like
Mm-hmm.
a minute in a movie. What if it was
Yes.
just the father was a GI and he went back home? So
Mm-hmm.
he's still being raised by his mother. So boom, you take that one out. Or um what if it's not a botched sex job like
Mm-hmm.
operation? What if it was successful, but it still fucked him up because it wasn't his choice?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then he still has those issues with the relationships and things like that, because it's not like, obviously, even though Hansel still like puts forth the image of Hedwig, in the end you see that that's not really who they were the whole time, because
Mm-hmm.
he didn't bother getting top surgery. Like, obviously he didn't have the money either, but like didn't get top surgery, didn't do, so it didn't follow through with everything. And so say it was the successful bottom surgery, if they never went through with the top surgery, if they never did that other thing, then there would still be issues there, because people would still get weirded out by it. Like,
Yes.
if they're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
expecting it, yeah, then they're still going to cause the problems. So
Uh-huh.
I think you could take those out, and it would still be, and change the script, and it would still be a movie that people would watch, because the
Hmm.
themes are still
Yeah.
there, like the same, issues with relationship because of issues with yourself, and
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think so. I tend to think you're right. And the reason I keep saying I think so with hesitancy is because I should have given this caveat at the beginning. Like, I don't watch musicals really, and I'm a straight white dude, so it's very much me like trying to approach this with humility and go like, I am trying to understand this and not at all assume that this is like that I have any authority in this matter at all,
Oh,
right?
right. And I have like
So yeah.
several like trans friends who could totally listen to this, and they're like, "What the fuck were you talking about?" Like,
If send it to them
I
and
will. I'll
see
tag
what
them
they
and say
say.
like,
Yeah.
"Hey, if you guys can, like, if you've watched the movie, and if you haven't watched the movie, go watch the movie first and then listen to this and tell us, like, are we totally off the mark? Do we not
Yes.
understand? Are we just dumb cis straight people?"
Yes,
Probably.
right. Right. Probably yes. Um, yeah. The I found like a quote from this New York Times film review that I thought
Hmm.
was really it's funny. It's a funny quote. This came out in 2001.
Okay.
And the film reviewer said, "The fact that the movie exists at all reminds us that as much as we may be living in a t-shirt and baseball cap world of macho men and jiggling babes, it is also a post-Freudian world of better living through surgery and chemistry, a place peopled with flexing drag kings and slithery, oh god, this word is not great, slithery she dash males
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything in between. I think he was saying he liked the movie in that.
It was portraying a slice of life that you don't see. It
I
was just really poorly worded.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's hard to say that that's a positive review.
That was like one little quote from it,
Right.
and I thought that it was like I thought that it's like I feel like John Cameron Mitchell made the movie, and if he would have read that, he would be like, yes, I accomplished what I wanted to do. This like New York Times film reviewer has no idea what he's saying, and he's trying to like make sense of it.
Right.
And
Yeah, that
maybe we're doing what John Cameron Mitchell wants us to do with that movie, is to be like you said, two cis straight white folks coming at it being like, oh, I think is this what they meant? Is this okay?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what else can we say about it?
I don't know. You said you liked the music and you said you liked the overall story.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like how it was shot. Like it had a 90s aesthetic to me, even though it was shot in
Yes.
like 2001, or probably, it came out in 2001, but there were certain ways that the camera operated, and like the vibrancy of the colors and stuff. Like there was
Hmm.
lots of like shots of only people's faces, like really up close.
Hmm.
Reminded me of Raising Arizona, sort of like
Okay.
that movie is very similar with the way it's shot too. It's in Raising Arizona, they're doing it for like comedic effect, so that it feels like more cartoony. And I
Hmm.
think they're doing the same thing here. But one reviewer, I listened to a podcast from this one reviewer, and they said that they think that they did that in the movie because it was on so they were making it on so little funds that they couldn't reveal that they weren't in the right staging. you
Oh,
know
okay.
so it's like, well, we don't need to edit this too much if we just get like a super intense close up of this guy's face right then.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked the that bilge water stuff was really funny. And the I can't remember the jokes offhand, but the little quippy one-liners that Hedwig had as she's like
As she's
performing them.
monologuing,
Yeah.
yeah, or yeah, there are a lot of like, if you were not paying attention, it's like a throwaway line almost.
Uh-huh.
It's just kind of like a joke and then past it already.
Yeah, yeah. And there's you can tell like when she's in in those bilge water things and like interacting with people who are just like trying to eat their food. Um,
Yeah.
it sort of reminded me, like I've been to not a ton of drag shows, but I've been to like several,
Uh-huh.
and I have to get myself prepared for them because I know that I exude like nerdy straight white guy. So
Oh,
in
so it's a big spotlight of like, please come pick on me.
Please come pick on me. Yes.
Right.
Yep. And I didn't know that that was going to happen the first one that I went to. Like
Uh-huh.
I wish whoever brought me to that first one, I can't remember who it was. It was somewhere in Florida in Gainesville. I wish they would have told me. But so every subsequent one I've gone to, I'm like, okay, I go knowing full well that if anybody is going to get picked on, it's going to be me with
Right.
like skinny white dude with like big plastic, frame glasses on. I know I'm gonna get picked on, and I don't know that they did a good job of recreating like what that feeling is like. I remember in the moment, and maybe that was very small, but that's what that made me think of.
Side, like total side note, has nothing to do with movie. Did
Yeah,
you take money to tip the drag performers?
did I take money?
Yeah, did you like bring money with you to tip the performers?
I can't
Did you know
remember.
that that's a thing? That is a thing, by the way.
Yes, I knew that it
Okay.
was a thing.
Because I
Yes.
feel like, even though I feel like it's common knowledge, like if you go see a burlesque performance, if you go see a drag show, you bring lots of dollar bills or fives or whatever you want, to
Yeah.
tip the performers. But I have been with groups of people where they didn't, where I was the only one, and I was like,
Uh,
whoa, what is going
what?
on here?
Yeah, I've the one I went to most recently had kind of a high it had like a high ticket price.
Okay.
So I think I probably didn't have that much. I probably brought like $5 with me or something, but to even get in the door, it was pretty expensive. So, um yeah, I don't
Hmm.
know. That's not I'm probably letting you down, but I also am not one that's going to run
But as
up
long
and
as you had something, you had something. I mean,
I had
as like
something. I had
as far as
something.
I'm remembering, these nobody else in my group had anything, or like maybe one other person, and it was just, I don't know. It was strange. It was
Were
strange
they
to me.
all were they all clueless just about like what you're supposed to do at the thing
I
or
don't know. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I didn't call them out. I didn't ask it. I mean, if they're listening and they figure it out, this is probably you. Uh, I don't want to just like call the person out. I mean,
yeah.
that might be very ambitious and hopeful that anybody beyond like one person is going to listen to this, but in case they do.
Right. You don't want to call
I
them out
don't
for that.
right. I don't want to like
Yeah.
embarrass them, because it might have just been like, oh, they hadn't been to a drag show before, so they just didn't realize, or
Hmm.
it was like, or yeah, it was that they just didn't bring enough money, or it was something they didn't
Hmm.
realize until we got there, and yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So sorry,
Um
total derailment of the conversation, has nothing to do with the movie other
no,
than we were
it's
talking about drag shows.
yeah, no, I think it applies. Um So you think maybe a spiritual cousin to this movie would be Reality Bites for your own existence, right? Like not,
Yes,
but
for
okay. I'm gonna have
like,
to go watch that
and
one.
totally not. I mean, it's first of all, it's very 90s. It's starring Janine Garofalo, Winona Ryder, and Ethan Hawke. So that alone makes it like super 90s.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's the feeling of trying to figure out yourself and trying to figure out your place in the world. Um, is a major theme for both. So,
Yeah,
like, I would say the two movies are nothing alike other than that.
yeah. That is the through line. That is the theme.
Yeah.
Um, which I think for me, like I said, Fight Club. I remember there was a time in my life where it was really it's so cheesy, where I was really into Goodwill Hunting for a similar reason.
I
Just
have
like,
never seen that movie.
oh, really? I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
part of
I
me
don't.
wears that as a badge of honor. I don't know why. I'm sure it's a good movie, and they win an Oscar or something for it, and like,
They did. I think the reason to watch that movie. I think the reason to watch that movie is because you see Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Like that was their movie. Like they came up with all of that, and
and that was before
somehow,
they were famous. That was like their
yeah, Ben
major
Affleck.
entrance into like stardom.
Yeah, Ben Affleck had been in, I believe he had been in some, maybe one Kevin Smith movie at
Oh
the
yeah, he
time.
was in Mallrats.
Yes. Yeah. But I think so that would be the only reason I would say go back and watch it is because if you come at it with that mindset of like, okay, I'm watching this, like picture yourself in your 20s and you're trying to figure stuff out and
Uh-huh.
watch it with that mindset and seeing them at sort of the beginning of their careers. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's by Gus Van Sant. Like he's a really good director, so it's
Yeah.
shot well. There's some good one-liners in it. You get to see what's his name, Robin Williams,
Yeah.
do some good dramatic acting. But all right, well,
Yeah.
I
I feel like age and mindset plays a lot into movies sometimes. I was
definitely
thinking about that today. Like, again, one reason that I again not that you didn't like it, but that I may have liked it better and whatever is because of the age I was when I watched it. Like The Goonies. You saw it when you were a
hmm
kid, right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
And you
hmm
watch it now and you still love it. And or I do.
yeah.
There are some movies that you watch from when you were a kid that haven't aged well and you don't like it. But like I know I had a friend who had never seen The Goonies and they watched it and they were like, it was okay.
Right, right.
So yeah, no, yeah, like it's different when you're coming at it from a different age because you don't have the same perspective.
It's
It's not.
it is so hard to overcome the nostalgia barrier when it comes to like evaluating movies or books or TV or music. Like it's so hard for me personally to overcome that to say, is this thing legitimately good or am I just hyper focusing on the things that made it good or the situation that was surrounding it when I saw it? For me, it's really difficult. And similarly, it's really difficult for me to forget terrible things that happen that make me dislike a movie. Like I got into a huge argument with somebody when I watched Tree of Life. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, was that the one with Hugh Jackman and Rachel
No.
Weisz?
No, you're thinking of The Fountain. Tree of Life
Oh, yeah, okay.
um Tree of Life is a it's a Terrence Malick movie. It's like really abstract and like weird and cool, but I got in this huge argument with somebody like just an enormous argument that had like ripple effects. And now I just can't watch that movie because it's so
So
closely tied with that argument.
the argument which had nothing to do with the movie.
No, it had nothing to do with the movie. It just happened right after the movie.
Right. So it's it's like PTSD almost.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you
I own
have
the
like this
movie.
yeah.
I own the movie and I enjoy it and I can't watch it. Can't watch
Yeah.
it.
I don't know if I've ever had anything like that, but like as far as like nostalgia goes, I mean the Captain America, not Captain America, Captain Marvel just came out, and you
Yes.
saw it,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. I
Yeah,
did.
and the '90s soundtrack. I mean, obviously it was set in the '90s. It was set in like 1995. Um,
Right.
and I like the storyline anyway. I do like the story, but yeah, part of me's like, man, now that you say that, like, did I like it or did I just like it because I like all those '90s? Like, I still listen to all of that music.
That's what you said on I think you posted that on Facebook or something.
Yeah, I did.
You were like, does it qualify as nostalgia if I still actively listen to all of those songs or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and is it? I don't know. I mean,
I
technically,
don't
I
know.
guess it does because like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I don't know. All right. Well, I think we did it. Did we do it? Did we do
I
it
think so.
justice?
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
believe I just looked at how long we've been talking, and I will be surprised if anybody makes it through the hour, 45 minutes.
They will. This is
Okay.
riveting stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. We'll talk about another movie again.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
Thanks.
good.
Bye.